Welcome to Chapter 14, Demonstration and Verbal Instructions. Let me start with the most ordinary moment in all of teaching. Someone wants to learn a skill, and what do? You show them, or you tell them, or both. That's it. Those are the two great channels we've used to pass on movement for as long as there have been teachers. A PE teacher demonstrates a golf putt. A dance teacher walks through a phrase. An occupational therapist shows a patient how to button a shirt. A coach tells a hitter to keep their eye on the ball. Demonstration and verbal instruction. They feel so obvious that we rarely stop to ask whether we're doing them well. And that, honestly, is exactly why so many of us do them badly. Here's the concept that runs through this whole chapter. The best way to give information depends on the skill and the goal. There is no single method that always wins. Showing isn't automatically better than telling. More words aren't better than fewer, and the polished expert isn't always the best model. So today we're going to get specific about what a learner actually perceives when you demonstrate, when showing beats telling, why observation works in the brain at all, and how to choose words that aim a learner's attention instead of drowning it. Whatever you go on to do, coach, teach, train, rehabilitate, you'll spend your career standing in front of someone, deciding what to show and what to say. My goal is to make those two decisions deliberate.
Here's our map in 3 parts. Part 1 is about what a demonstration actually teaches, not what we assume it teaches, but what the eye genuinely picks up, how researchers proved it with a clever technique, which skills benefit most from being shown, and why watching works in the brain at all. Part 2 is about putting demonstration to work. Who should model? When and how often to show it? When sound beats sight? The two competing theories of why watching helps, and an honest caveat about chasing a perfect form. And part 3 turns to words, verbal instructions and cues, where the big lesson is almost always say less and aim attention outward. By the end, you'll know what learners truly see in a demo, when to demonstrate versus describe, the 2 theories of observational learning and Bandura's 4 processes inside one of them, and how to write instructions and cues that help rather than overwhelm. Keep a practical question running the whole time. Faced with this learner and this skill, do I show or do I tell? And exactly how? That's the decision this chapter is built to sharpen.
Part 1. What a demonstration actually teaches. Before we get into the mechanics, let me frame why this first section deserves your close attention, because it overturns an assumption almost everyone carries. We tend to think a demonstration simply transfers a picture of the movement, that the learner watches the expert and copies what they see, like tracing. The research says it's stranger and more interesting than that. So Part 1 asks 4 questions in order. First, is demonstration even the right choice here, or is it just our reflex? Second, when we do demonstrate, what does the learner's perceptual system actually extract? What do they see as opposed to merely look at? Third, which kinds of skills genuinely benefit from being shown and which don't? And fourth, why does watching another person move help your own brain learn to move? What's happening neurologically? Along the way, we'll meet one of my favorite experimental tools in all of motor learning, the point light technique, which strips a demonstration down to a handful of moving dots and reveals exactly what information the eye is hungry for. The thread tying it all together is a single shift in how you think about showing. A demonstration isn't a picture to be copied, it's a pattern to be perceived, often below conscious awareness. Get that right and you'll demonstrate very differently. Let's start by questioning the reflex itself. Let's begin by puncturing a comfortable assumption. Demonstration is far and away the most common way we communicate a skill, and we reach for it almost reflexively, the belief being that showing delivers the most information in the least time. And often that's true. But notice how automatic it is. We demonstrate first and ask questions never. Williams and Hodges, in a 2005 review of how soccer skills get coached, actually listed a set of popular coaching beliefs they called myths. And myth number 1 was this: demonstrations are always effective in conveying information to the learner. The research verdict is more disciplined. Demonstrate only after you've decided that this particular situation genuinely calls for it, rather than some other way of giving information.
So hold that thought as our frame for the whole first half. Showing is powerful, but it is a choice, not a reflex. The rest of part one is really about how to make that choice well, knowing what a demo conveys and to which skills it conveys it best, so that when you do reach for it, you're reaching on purpose.
To choose well, we have to know what a person actually perceives from a demonstration. And here, I want you to notice a careful distinction the authors make between what we see and what we look at. They're not the same. What you look at is where your eyes happen to point. What you see is what you perceive and take from it. And the research is remarkably consistent. What an observer perceives from a skilled demonstration is the coordination pattern, specifically the invariant relative motions, the stable timing relationships among the joints, not the individual body parts they happen to be staring at. A learner watching a tennis serve isn't really cataloging the elbow, then the wrist, then the knee. They're absorbing how those parts move in relation to one another over time. Even more striking, a lot of this happens below conscious awareness. When you ask people afterward to describe what they saw, they often can't give an accurate account, and yet their movement has already shifted toward the model. So the headline of this slide, a demonstration hands over a coordination pattern, mostly through channels the learner isn't even aware of. We see far more than we can look at, and far more than we can say, which, by the way, is one reason Just Watch Me can work even when the learner couldn't tell you what they noticed. Now, how could researchers possibly prove that we perceive coordination from such thin information? With one of my favorite techniques in all of motor learning, the point light technique. You attach little lights or reflective markers to just the joints of a performer, then film them in the dark so the viewer sees nothing but bright dots moving against black. No body, no face, no context, just points of light. And what people can read from those dots is astonishing. Johansson, back in 1973, showed people could instantly tell walking from running. Cutting and Kozlowski showed people could even recognize their friends from the dot patterns of their gait. Abernathy and Zowie showed expert badminton players could predict the direction of an opponent's shot from point lights just as well as from full video. And in a lovely study by Williams in 1988, viewers were shown only 3 dots: shoulder, elbow, wrist, and about 2/3 of them spontaneously said they saw a throw. Here's the punchline that matters for teaching. The information isn't in any single joint or its speed. It's in the relative timing between the joints, the ratio, the pattern. That's what the visual system locks onto. Which means when you demonstrate, the relationship between the moving parts is the message. So demonstrate the whole coordinated action, not a frozen pose. So, if we perceive coordination patterns, we'd expect that watching a skilled demo should literally change a learner's coordination. And it does. Schoenfelder-Zodi in 1992 had people learn a slalom ski simulator. You stand on a platform and rocket side to side in a smooth, ski-like rhythm against springs. The people who first watched a skilled model developed that coordinated rhythm earlier in practice than those who didn't. In the sketch, the no-demo learner is the snail, still hunting for the pattern, while the demo learner is the rocket. A later meta-analysis, pooling 64 studies, reached the same conclusion. Demonstrations reliably convey the relative motions of the modeled skill. But here's a twist that surprises people, from Hodges and colleagues in 2005. They taught a tricky soccer scoop kick and showed different groups point lights of different parts, the whole leg, the foot, or just the toe. The group shown only the toe matched the model's hip and knee coordination better than the group shown more. Sometimes the end point of the limb carries the whole pattern, which fits the idea that we naturally control the far tip of a limb, and it's a useful reminder that more visual information isn't automatically better. Occasionally, showing less of the body reveals more of the movement.
Now to the single most important practical question in this whole section. When does a demonstration actually help? The research looked equivocal. Some studies found demos beat other instruction, some didn't, until McGill and Schoenfelder-Zodi pointed out that it depends on the skill. And the deciding question is beautifully simple. Does this skill require a brand new pattern of coordination,
Or is it just a new parameter, a new setting of a pattern the learner already owns? When the coordination itself is new, a cartwheel, a tennis serve, an unfamiliar dance phrase, demonstration shines because seeing the pattern is exactly what the learner needs. That's the big green check on the gymnast. But when the learner already has the pattern and just needs to do it faster or harder or a bit farther, that's retuning a known skill, the runner just changing pace. And here, a demonstration usually does no better than simpler forms of instruction. So before you demonstrate, ask, new pattern or new parameter? That one question tells you whether showing is worth the time or whether a quick word would serve the learner better. It's the most useful filter in the chapter.
Let's go one level deeper and ask why watching someone move should help your brain learn to move at all. The answer that electrified neuroscience in the 1990s is mirror neurons. Giacomo Rizzolotti's team in Italy found that certain premotor neurons in a monkey's brain fired both when the monkey grasped something and when it merely watched someone else grasp, the same cells for doing and for seeing. Human brain imaging has since found mirror-like activity in us too, and here's a detail I love. A key node sits in the inferior frontal gyrus, a region that overlaps Broca's area, the brain's speech production zone, hinting at deep links between imitation and language. And this isn't just a curiosity, it has a real clinical payoff. Action observation therapy, having stroke patients watch healthy arm and hand movements, has been shown to aid recovery of those movements, especially when paired with regular physical therapy. So when you demonstrate, you may literally be activating the same motor circuits in the observer that they'll need to perform. Watching, in a real neural sense, is a kind of doing, which is a striking justification for demonstration and a reminder that even a patient who can't yet move can begin rehearsing the movement with their eyes.
Let me recap part 1, because it reframed what a demonstration even is. Demonstration is the most common instructional method, but it is not always best. Use it when the situation warrants, not by reflex. What the observer perceives is the coordination pattern, the invariant relative motions among the joints, and they pick it up largely without conscious awareness. They see more than they can look at or say. The point light technique proved it. We read movement, gait, even a friend's identity from a handful of dots using relative timing rather than any single joint. Demonstration helps most when the skill demands a brand new coordination pattern, far less when it's just a new parameter of one the learner already owns. And a mirror neuron system in the brain may be the very reason watching helps, with genuine payoff in stroke rehabilitation through action observation therapy. So a demonstration isn't a picture to copy, it's a pattern to perceive. Now let's turn from what a demo teaches to how to actually deliver one well.